That Dirty Black Bag Season 1 is a television show on AMC. I saw the ad for it on Instagram. It was a pretty big campaign for it a few months ago, back in February. Anyways, this one is about Red Bill. He is a bounty hunter who violently cuts off the heads of his bounties, dead or alive, because his motto and catchphrase is, "A head weighs less than a body." So when he shows up in Greenvale, which is a small town that's under the thumb of greed, basically, he runs across a corrupt sheriff named McCoy, who has his own dark past. And there's a lot of characters, a lot of world building I like too, like Greenvale. Apparently they had a lot of violence going on because everyone thought gold was in the land, and then a man named Thompson diverted a river and sort of made the place really dry, so they have to bring in water and ration it out, and it's basically water's more valuable than whiskey and gold, basically. So there's a really great aesthetic for everything. In terms of the pacing, this series is a little bit on the slow side, right? I mean, the first 2 episodes are kind of boring. Not much happens in terms of action, but if you're patient through, it gets really interesting. Episode 3 and 4, really. 4 being the best because it's a big flashback episode that sort of gives you a lot more character insight. That's kind of the sort of pacing issue. If you watch the first 2 episodes, you might get bored and abandon. I almost did, but it's actually a lot more interesting as it goes on, and more violent too. You get more action, more kills as the series goes on, and by the finale, you've got so many dead characters, basically. So one of the other problems I had with the series is that it's too slow to get started, but also there does seem to be too many characters at the beginning of the series. You're kind of sitting there wondering what's going to go on with all these different characters because there's just so many of them. But eventually it does, it does pay off eventually. It's just a little bit slow in terms of pacing. The cast does a pretty good job too. You got the main 2 characters. They're not even in the series that much though. Red Bill and McCoy. They get kind of overshadowed by all the other characters. There's Steve. He's a farmer who's trying to protect his land with his deaf son and his wife. And then there's Thompson, the guy who diverted the river, but he's out of money too. He wants the land. And then there's a brothel house with a madam named Eve and all of her prostitutes. And then there's the sheriff, and then there's his deputies, and then there's the other villains. And then there's a lot of characters going on. Sometimes things get lost in the shuffle, but then eventually by the season finale, you do get your action bits, and you do get more character development, and it leaves off things for season 2. The series, I think, was planned to be 3 seasons, and they're going to make all 3, so you don't have to worry about it getting canceled before then. But that Dirty Black Bag is pretty entertaining. It's a spaghetti western homage, pretty violent, cool camera work. Really good cast. They do really well. If you're patient, you will be rewarded with a pretty solid, show. So I definitely recommend it, and I enjoyed that Dirty Black Bag Season 1.